What's up, guys? All right, what am I talking about today? I am talking about 9 steps that are gonna get your product or service out there to the world. Russell Brunson, if you don't know who that is, if you're living under a rock in the marketing world, or if you're just not a marketer because you're a software engineer and you wanna get your product out there, this video is going to show you what you need to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 steps. Stay around to the end. Step 1, though, is super cool. Transformation. What do I mean by transformation? Let me show you guys. What is a transformation? A transformation is what we all see every day. Here I am, my little guy over here. Well, actually, I might be even sad because I need to kind of get over here and I can't, right? So I'm sad. How do I get over there? Well, in order to get over there, you need our product. Or I need to know a lot about you, right? So I might even ask questions and figure out what's going on in the head of this guy. Because this is our guy, and he wants to figure out how does he get over here? And this is kind of like what you call gap selling. At the beginning of any product or service, we need to have contact with our customers. We need to know what's going on with them. We have to have lots of questions and talk to them and ask them and figure it out. Because this over here, this happy guy over here, what this guy looks like, if we don't know that, then it's gonna be hard for us to build the bridge. Because we're gonna build that bridge, we're gonna get over here, we're gonna be like, yeah, we got this bridge for you, but maybe our product isn't really answering the questions that this guy has. And he falls down and he goes down and dies because there's like bad stuff down here. Everyone just like, there's all these like customers that never made it because you didn't ask the right questions at the beginning. The transformation is something that we need to understand from day one. What does that transformation look like? And if you know what that transformation looked like, then you have a really solid bridge here. This guy's gonna be able to come over there, walk across, and he's gonna end up on the other side, like super happy. And he's gonna be like, so thankful, thank you. Because I was here and now I'm over there. I'm gonna come back to this, but just keep that in your mind. Step 1, transformation. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna go to step 2. Step 2, over deliver on value. What does that even mean, bro? Everyone talks about value, value, value. What does that even mean when I'm saying value? I'm over delivering on value. What it means is you've got a product, you've got a service. It's the reason your business exists, right? The second layer of that is marketing for this example of value, right? Because we're trying to over deliver on value, right? So in a sense, Hormozi would say that in order to over deliver on value, you give away free stuff that's better than your competition's paid stuff. So like normally this back in the day might have been like a paid course that you only got behind a paid wall and it stayed behind this paywall and you have to like go through my ads, which would be like my marketing. You'd have to go through my sales, which would be like a sales call, and they would then allow you to see this video and you'd be like a trainee. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna put this out on YouTube for free and I'm gonna deliver free value that normally my competitors would charge you for, right? So I'm over delivering on value there. The reason I wrote it down like this is because the value has to be like, it's not like from the value of my perspective, right? Like the perspective is me as somebody like, I think this is super valuable, but rather the value of for the customer, right? So the customer wants to see that this product is matching up with the sales conversation I had. It's matching up with the marketing that got me into that sales conversation. And when I finally get behind maybe a paywall, here's your paywall, like a digital product or a course or whatever your product is, whatever your service is, when I finally get there, does it line up with the marketing and with the sales that I've been seen from the outside? So this value right here has to be real. It can't be a lie, right? Like, so how often have you like been disappointed in a product? How often have you had an amazing sales conversation, loved the marketing, and gotten into the product itself and you're like super disappointed? That's why this giving away free stuff that's better than the paid stuff, it delivers so much value and actually tells this person, be like, well, gosh, if that's this guy's free stuff, then his paid stuff is probably gonna be good, right? Because it should be at least as good. Hopefully it's better. Because obviously he's like, then I don't need to pay for it to begin with, right? Otherwise I can just keep on consuming the free stuff. So that's how I would look at value. Giving away free stuff that's better than your competitors' paid stuff and making sure that it lines up, the product or service that you are selling on the back end lines up with the front end with the marketing and the sales. What's behind door number 3? Door number 3 is master hook, story, offer. All right, so we're gonna come back to story in a second here. There's another one around here somewhere behind door number or something. But mastering this hook story offer. This is kind of like something that I have to say is I have to beat into my own head. So when we talk about a hook, it's kind of like, can you do this without being spammy? What I can't see enough of right now, and it's just, it works because we humans like to think that things are gonna be easy. In 60 minutes, I'm gonna build you an app that's gonna bring you $25,000 worth of. You're gonna be able to sell that app for $25,000. You know, I just saw that on YouTube today. It's like, sorry guys to burst your bubble there, that's not gonna happen. Bringing us back to that last page, right? Like this is the problem, that if your hook is not lined up with what's really happening in the back, people are gonna be pissed, right? Even if it's just like a millisecond, if your headlines don't match up with the actual video, so you have to kind of confirm that, right? Like if I was to make this video and be like, this is how I made $200 million last year. And then I do this video where it's like, wait a minute, like Remington, you just said at the beginning that you only made $1 million last year. Whatever I'm trying to say is when you do the hook, you have to be sure, going back to level 2 there, that we're not doing spam stuff here, right? Because you're gonna betray your audience. But nevertheless, the hook needs to be there. And so if the hook is good, and it's real, and designing that hook is a science for itself, right? So there's a great book on this, The Art and Business of Online Writing. You can see I've gone through it a couple times here. The thing is, you can use ChatGPT and DeepSeek and all of the LLMs to help you. But in the end, nothing's gonna be better than getting to the muse, talking to the muse, and figuring out how hooks work. This book gives you a really good outline for it. So it says here, every form of online writing has a headline. The first sentence of your Facebook post or tweet is a headline. The title or subtitle of your Wattpad or Amazon ebook is a headline. The front page of your company website is a headline. Why people read certain things on the internet and not others is often a reflection of its headline. That string of 5 to 15 words at the very top of the page tells the reader whether the piece of writing in front of them is going to be worth their time and what they can expect in exchange for reading it. What makes a great headline is getting someone to understand 3 things at the exact same time. What, who, and promise, which is the problem that will be solved and or the solution being offered. This reminds me of something that Hormozi's got. He said it was 3 Ps, but now he's going on to 5 Ps now. So he says there's 5 Ps. That's what I got here. I got the proof, promise, plan, right? So let's write that down.
There's 2 more. One is picture. So I want to add basically a visual roadmap that goes along with this. Roadmap, basically as soon as I can after I hit the other Ps. The proof part, I think that you had with the Nando's thing, I think that, I'm guessing that was an element of proof. I would just put it a little bit later because, I mean, I'm talking like 15 seconds, you know what I mean? Just a little bit later. And as anal as this sounds, like, you know how much intros matter. Like intros are everything. We spend like an ungodly amount of time on our introductions.
So it's interesting what he's saying right there. In a sense, this is also a hook, right? So if we're thinking about an introduction, we just really want to think about like the introduction, the hook. He's spinning. We're going to like, I guess you would say like the 80-20 rule here, which means that you're spending 80% of your effort on like the first 20% of the video. And so because of that, because if this doesn't work, if the hook, the headline, and the intro aren't working, then no one's ever gonna watch your whole video, right? So I'm gonna let Hormozi keep going here.
The other piece is that you can mention pain. And so I've updated mine with 5 Ps. And
so that's the last P. So he's got pain here. So the what, the who, the promise is the way that Nicholas Cole goes about this. Hormozi goes about this a little bit more in saying the proof, promise, plan, picture, pain. And you want to have these, like, this is kind of a more outline of like an intro, so that at the beginning of the video, the beginning of the very first paragraph, you want to go through all of these. And I think the order is probably not going to matter as much as it at first as it is just making it like actually sound real and not just being like some type of framework. Put it into ChatGPT and see what ChatGPT says, and then it just sounds like it's like this huge thing, right? So it's really about like being real, because you're going to stand out these days if you're just real. Anyway, so then we have the story. The story we're going to get into when we get into storytelling, but again, it's almost kind of similar to the roadmap, right? So there's a story framework that is useful for understanding how Frodo got to, you know, in the Lord of the Rings, or you can just think about any movie. They always follow this story. It's called the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is extremely helpful to understand the structure of a story. And it's also simple enough that where you don't really have to Like you can use it in everything you do. Then we go to 3, which is the offer. Mr. Hormozy again. Mr. Hormozy comes back. He wrote a whole book on this called $100 Million Offers. He has a free course on that. So there's no need for me to like go into that. But obviously like in a workshop or whatever, if we're doing this together and we want to go deep down, I'm going to use that because this way, like the offer itself, making sure that this offer is really like attractive to your customer, right? So, and one thing I want to say about an offer, because I recently just had this with a customer of mine, is that this offer, it could be a limited time only, right? Like you can't, like it doesn't mean that like you can actually literally sell your soul here in a sense and be like, cool, for like 30 days, I'm gonna sell my soul. Or like, I'm gonna do a 50% off thing. And it kind of goes back to delivering more value. If I can afford to offer my customers something that's just like so drop dead gorgeous that they can't let it go, then they're going to get to be my customer first, and then I'm going to be able to have them, right? But if I don't do that, then I never get them in. It's kind of like, it's almost like you think about being like a drug dealer. Like, I don't know, we can probably say something that's like not totally illegal. Like now we can buy grass legally in Germany too. I'm in Germany. And before I probably couldn't talk about it, but now I can. And in California, you could be doing that for like the last 10 years. But back in the day when it was like illegal, and let's say like your grass dealer has like the normal shit, the normal stuff, and then like the holy good stuff, like his own stash, right? And if you were like a new customer, if he was a smart drug dealer, you would give like your initial customers like the really good stuff, the real strong stuff, get them hooked right at the beginning, right? And you're going to give them your best offer because you want them coming back. Now, the problem starts is when you start to dilute that later on, right? So like at first you get them hooked on this amazing offer, and then afterwards it's like, well, the value of the product or service that you're offering, like for real, like the diluted offer in that sense, still has to be killer, right? You can't just like give them the worst grass ever and then expect them to keep coming back because you already got them on such a high level. So in a sense, you could imagine that the offer, you know, if it's like 50% off or something like that, it's like, well, then everybody knows that like I'm getting a good deal. I come in, I get a good treatment like for skincare or whatever the product is, and it just blows me out of the water. And I know what the normal price is. And I already know as a customer, like what the normal value is. And so if that is still like, if the value is still so high and I can imagine paying 100% for that and coming back, then obviously you've got a good core product, right? But the offer itself is to get people exposed to that core product, and it could be okay to go a little lower or to do something that you wouldn't normally do for your existing customers to get the new customer kind of, because there's a switching cost, right? Like when customers go from one thing to the next, say they already have a product or service that they're using, maybe they're not 100% happy with it, and they see your offer, and it gives them a reason to kind of deal with that switching cost that comes along with it, right? That's why offers are so important. Anyway, so the hook, the story, the offer. Boom, that's number 3. Moving on to the next one. Number 4, leverage emotions. Oh, leverage emotions. This is a topic for itself. How do you leverage emotions? All right, so what we're gonna do when it comes to leveraging emotions, we wanna do 3 things. We wanna talk about the emotion, logic, and fear. Basically, what happens is emotions are part of the limbic system, and it handles like gut feelings, initial reactions, pleasure, pain, drives motivation and desire. So we're going to start with emotions, and then we're going to go on to the logic, which is the prefrontal cortex. Here we're going to analyze like facts, information, plans, makes rational decisions, pros and cons. And then we're going to get into the fear area, which is number 3, which is kind of like FOMO, like the fear of missing out, scarcity. And, you know, it doesn't have to be like, I think a lot of people are afraid of, like I was definitely afraid of using this against people, but scarcity could be like a real thing, you know, like if you're someone that's just selling one product and you're just that one person, that's like real scarcity, right? And it just is what it is. It's not like you're not saying that if you don't buy it now, you'll never be able to get it, blah, blah, blah. It's just more of like understanding that that's how our brains work, and we like to have things that we can't have. And so understanding that when we want to leverage emotions, and then we want to understand that people, especially like I think here, the more money is involved, the more that logic comes into play. Emotions can be, you know, emotional decisions, they tend to probably have like a lower quality, obviously, right? But at the same time, like, an emotional decision can be a very motivating decision. It could get you going, but in the end, it's not going to hold you, right? Like what's going to really hold you there is going to be the logic of that decision, and if it really pays out over the long run. So you're thinking of like return on investment kind of things obviously, like I think a little bit more of like when it comes time to make a decision and you see other people that have made that decision before, that's still kind of emotional because we are social animals, social proof. So I mean, I guess, you could say that social proof fits in every single area, right? So in the emotional area, it's like this want to belong, belonging. In the blue area, the logic center, it's use others' actions as evidence. So if everyone's doing it, must be right. Process social information as data points. So it's kind of data points. Here we have the fear of missing out, right? So if everybody else is doing it, like if there's a huge line at the door, then the club must be good, right? Which brings me to like a whole nother wait list video. If I have the wait list video out, put it up right now, because I made a video on creating a wait list, becoming oversubscribed, and that's also part of fear of missing out. Leverage emotions. Emotion, logic, fear, use the brain. I'll give you a little visual of a brain here. So here you have the prefrontal cortex. This is the most new arrival in our brain. So this is where people with a strong prefrontal cortex can plan really well. This is what got us in the animal kingdom to where we're at now. Emotion is the limbic system. So it's all of that stuff happening in there. That's number 4, leverage emotions. Let's move on to number 5. Number 5 is storytelling. Storytelling is going to be awesome. So I'm going to do this one really quick and dirty for you guys so that you guys understand that storytelling is super important. So what do? We start with our guy here. This is the storytelling framework. Yeah, so we've got our person here, our avatar, is what we like to call it, a person, user, whatever, customer. The reason that they even want to talk to you is because they have a problem. They are going to meet you, the business, and they're going to meet you as a guide. And what you're going to do for them is you're going to give them a plan. And once they have the plan, you're going to have to, what we like to say in marketing terms, CTA. It's a call to action. And what's going to happen is they are going to either fail or succeed. That's the most basic storytelling framework that you have. The cool thing is that if say they fail, then they kind of come back to this problem again, right? Or they have to kind of come back to the plan and get a new plan. Or they go to their guide and they say, hey, I don't know what's up. And then they're going to go and take action. Again, call to action itself is something that could be supported by the guide. Like, hey, I failed. Well, I need to come back and talk to the guide again. How do I? Well, here, let's adjust the plan, and then we'll take action again. Talk to me in a week, and then we get back to it, right? So what really happens is, like, when we are using storytelling, we're using basically the human's natural ability to follow stories, right? Like we understand how stories work. There's like it's so deeply ingrained into us. There's like a whole like philosophy that I can go into right there, but we understand it like naturally. So using that to explain how your product can solve somebody's problem, because you've had, for example, an avatar, or you've had a customer with a problem and you guided them with the plan and they had action and they succeeded, you can talk about that in your marketing. And so people will, at the beginning, if they haven't, and they have that problem and they haven't been exposed to you yet, they don't know about you yet, and they see that they're on your website and they see that someone has gone through this whole process with you together and succeeded, then you build trust with them, right? In storytelling, I think there's a little bit of a deeper level we can go to here, because like I can go on this all day long. Basically, this plan itself here, it's something that is going to be specific to the problem, obviously, right? But it's not set in stone, right? Because everybody's going to have like a certain level of that problem. I mean, you can just go in and out and talk about this all day long. But the cool thing is having this framework in your mind will allow you to communicate better. It's a nice way to communicate to your customer, because the customer will then be able to clearly understand how you can solve their problem by getting them to this transformation. You know, it's even repeating itself back to like, here's our guy here, and like, look, we made a whole transformation, right? When I'm in a sales conversation, I'm having this conversation saying like, look, we've done this before. Like, you are the person that I know. I've had people like you on the phone with me before. And our plan, our solution is the solution that person, like it's the same exact person. I've been through this conversation before. I'm telling you, man, I'm not going to give up on you because I know that you need our solution because I've had people like you with this problem before and we've gone through it. I've guided people through that same issue. Here's the plan. And I can even fix it a little bit. I know, like, well, maybe your problem is specific to you in this one specific way because every human being is going to have a special needs. But the main thing is that I'm going to help you take action because I think that's where a lot of people have a hard time because they don't trust it. So I'm here for you. I'm going to support you to take action so that you can succeed. And you know what? The best thing about life is failing will teach us. So don't be afraid to fail because failing is going to get us back to that plan again. And we're going to look back and we're going to stay on there and we're going to figure out what about that plan, what about that action, where did we fail at, and we're going to try it again. And that's what I'm here for because I'm your guide. These are like touch points, right? Because people will come in contact with your product or your service. And these are the most basic touch points that people are going to have. And they're going to, in their mind, they're wondering, like, if I invest money into this product, service, or whatever, what are the odds of me actually succeeding, right? And the more that I've been through this with somebody and I can communicate this clearly to somebody, that the odds are really going to be high because this exact problem I've seen before, and I've guided many people with this plan that I've used before to take action that we've done before, and we've succeeded. So it's, I've built the bridge. I've made this transformation with somebody before, and with you, it's not going to be any different. Of course, it might feel different, but I've been here before. There's one little extra level of storytelling that I want to talk about here. It's called the 7-11-4 rule, which means 7 hours, 11 interactions, and 4 locations. So what does that mean, right? So this is kind of how we like build trust, right, with people. If you think about it just on you're dating somebody, right? The very beginning, there's all these hormones and everything's happening, right? It's like this love is in the air kind of thing. But you spend a lot of time with somebody, right? And if someone's had 7 hours of contact, 11 interactions with that product, service, company, brand, whatever, in 4 different locations, that their potential for buying the product or getting involved with that brand in some way, shape, or form goes up extreme. That's all there is to it. What this means for us is if we go back to our storytelling framework here, we want to make sure that in our marketing and our sales, even at the very beginning to this transformation, that the 7 hours exists, right? That it's even out there, right? So do we have 7 hours of, and the thing is, like this YouTube video example, like most people are going to watch maybe the first 4 minutes of this video or 3 minutes or 30 seconds, who knows? So to get them up to 7 hours, I have to make a lot of video content so that people have enough exposure to me, right? So that's why so many YouTube creators are making so many videos all the time, because the algorithm's only going to show the new stuff, most likely at the beginning. To get that 7 hours, there needs to be a lot of content out there. 11 interactions, boom. What does that even mean? There's interesting ways of thinking of this 11 interactions, right? Because there's a classic funnel. You have this awareness. I'll do two drawings here. So you have the awareness phase, then you have the engagement, then the conversion, and the advocacy. Yeah. The further you go down this emotional funnel here, at first they have to just be aware that you even exist, and then they're going to start engaging with you, and these are kind of like these interactions. And then eventually there's a conversion that's going to happen, there's going to be a sale or something's going to actually going to happen there. And then they're so happy with that product and they converted that they start to advocate for you. That is the classic funnel. But there's also another way of thinking about it. It's kind of like this is our brand. This is like a consumer here. And I like to think of it kind of like gravity. So the people kind of just gravitate towards you, And this is happening because they have an interaction with your brand. One there, and then they have another interaction with your brand there. And then they're over here, and they're like, okay, I'm interacting with your brand there. And then they kind of get closer, and they interact with you, and they see more about your brand, what's going on with the product. Maybe they get some type of free taste. You get the free content with the 7 hours. And so they're interacting with you on different levels, right? So how do you create that? Well, it's just you have to just kind of package your product, package the service so that people can have interactions with it, with the brand, with the storytelling part. It's all just about like creating a little bit of a hype around it even, like is there a wait list? Are there ads out there? And this brings us to the locations, right? 4 different locations. Obviously this could be physical or digital, but like I said, you could have, the Facebook ads, you could have the organic social media, you could have newsletters, there's all sorts of ways to have different locations. You can have the physical brick and mortar location. You can do events. We're building trust by being omnipresent, basically, right? And we're doing that in a nice, cohesive way because we're using storytelling. This is number 5. All right, so moving on to number 6, compete on value, not on price. Oh yeah, we like this one. And obviously all those things I just talked about, competing on value, not on price, is gonna be a lot easier when people trust you. What it really means is that if people can reduce you down to price, then there's nothing special about you, right? So I like to write this one big thing here. This is what you call the USP, or you think about building a moat around your business. Is your business truly one of one? Is it really one of one? And if it is, then it's pretty easy to charge based on value because there's nothing compared to it. If I can compare my product, if I can compare my iPhone to a Samsung, so if you can compare that, then there's going to be the opportunity for price to come into play. Obviously, Apple is actually kind of a good example of more of like a ethos around their product, right? Because Steve Jobs was so prolific in creating this idea that like, I identify as an Apple person, right? Because I'm a creative thinker. I think different. Right? That's like his thing. That's the USP. They're not selling laptops. They're selling creativity, the opportunity for you to be creative. And that's the moat around Apple products, right? So I identify as an Apple user. It's branding. And at the same time, the products are fantastic, right? So there was nothing like it at the beginning, right? So nobody knew, like you couldn't compare the iPhone to anything when it first came out, right? So it was one of one. So they're able to charge a lot more for that. That's pretty basic. It's just that like a lot of us tend to get in the trap of like, if you're having a conversation with a customer, I've fallen into this myself. You get into the trap of like competing on price, where people want to talk about like, well, how much does that charge and what's it worth? But like, you just have to be like, kind of have your antennas out there and understand that you can't fall into that trap. And so let's just say like somebody says, well, Remington, I'm not going to pay 30,000 euros for a website. This is a perfect example. Like that's just too much money for a website. And it's like, well, that's fine. Then like, I'm not going to build it for you, right? Because I've been building websites for 16, 17 years. And when I build a website, I'm going to do it a little bit differently than somebody that maybe charges 1,200 euros for the website, right? Because there's people out there that charge 1,200 euros for a website. I saw a really amazing offer for someone that charges $499 for 499 euros for a website. But that's an offer, and that's what the person was confusing themselves with at the moment. They're like, this is an offer for like the plug and play WordPress website that just is like, hello world. And this here is a fully comprehensive corporate designed website with custom JavaScript and all of the tools that you need to drive growth in your business. That's built into that. And I know how to build that because I've been doing it for 17 years and I know what that needs, what that entails. I'm a one of one in that sense. And of course, when this person is confronted with 30,000 euros, he's never had to pay that much for a website before. So it's my job to explain to him that a 30,000 euro website is actually an investment. There's a return on investment. We go back to the story framework. I've been here before. I've done a $30,000 website before, or euro website before. And what we've done is we've drove the business to have new customers, new lead generation, new employees that brought 300,000 euros of value back into the company just by redoing the website. Either I haven't done a good enough job communicating that so that he doesn't see the value, or he's just not into it. That could also be the case. Or he just doesn't understand that really is a return on investment, And like I said, that's probably more of an education thing. I would just take the responsibility of that and saying, I did a bad job of explaining to this guy that a 30,000 euro investment in a website is a 10x investment that will pay itself out every time, right? So he didn't have the trust that that's the case. That's an example of selling on value and not on price. So number 7, what do we have here for lucky number 7? Build a value ladder. This is cool. I'm just gonna take the example of my own community that I'm building right now because it's fresh in my mind. Here we have our nice value ladder. And the reason that we wanna have a value ladder is because, again, it's like you have the people that are like kind of circling around you, like this guy here, this is our brand here, and this person's like circling around and they like, they touch a product. Maybe they come to this $30,000, I can do the website, it's fine. Or like, something super expensive that's like their top offer that you're offering, $50,000 one-on-one, do it for you, turnkey, something like super $500,000 product, right? That's would be like the top of your ladder, right? And they're like, well, that's not for me. So that's not good for me. So, but if you have a value ladder, you can be like, that's cool because like in this website that had like $50,000 offer here, you can have like a link that's saying like, check out my newsletter, which could bring them all the way down to like this level here, where you're writing about how $30,000 websites bring value to customers. And here's like 5 tips, a weekly newsletter that sends out tips and tricks on how to improve your website that you have right now. And maybe you have someone internally that can like build the website themselves or whatever, or here you want to learn about what does a $30,000 website really do? What is it about? And I write about that in a weekly newsletter. And so that shows up in their mailbox and they can do that for free. I can even offer them here a nice lead magnet, something that's like better than what people paid for, Be like, I have a free website, free website tool, and you can test out like a $30,000 website for a week, for 7 days, to see what it looks like, to see what it feels like, And that's a lead magnet. When they sign up for that, then it signs them up to the newsletter, and I can kind of expose them to other parts of my value ladder. So what would be like a next step here? So up here, I have something like a community. Down here, you're thinking like free content, right? Like the lower we go down here, we're like free content, X, Twitter, whatever, LinkedIn, all those guys, right? All that kind of stuff. And that's people kind of going around your brand, right? Community is like, oh, I'm getting more of a touch point, right? But maybe it's like it costs a little bit, right? Like I have like a community for $67 right now, which means like in this community, there's like once a week, we get together as an entire team and we ask like a day before, what are some of the issues that people are having? And we answer those questions in a big Zoom call, whatever, where we have like 200-300 people in there. And I answer like the top 15 questions that we got the week before, So it's adding value. And there could even be like certain levels of this community that like get better. You maybe have here like more of like a one-on-one or like a 1 to, like the ratio is like 1 to 8 or even 1 to 20 instead of 1 to 200, right? In the value ladder. More of like an accelerator type of program, right? Of course, this program is going to cost more. It's whatever the price is for that. What you're doing is you're going from the very top, like the most hardcore product that you have. Like think about Apple, like the product that Apple would sell, like a fully decked out Mac desktop with like costs like, you can go on their website. I would love to do that and spend like $120,000 on like one product. And then the other thing is you go all the way down to like AirPods or whatever, they don't really have much for free, but you know what I'm saying, right? So that's your value ladder. It's important to have it written out, and it could change, but like it gives you a framework. And if you just think of it like as for people that are circling around your brand, that they have different touch points, different levels that they can come in and engage with your products, with your services, with your message, with your story. Moving on to number 8. Build systems. Okay, systems. It seems easy enough, build a system. But systems change. And at the beginning, I've been through it myself, like you can't build a system before it's ready. So one of the biggest things about building the systems is data. You gotta get data. Data-driven businesses, that's like the wet dream of every entrepreneur, right? But the reason it's a wet dream is because gathering data is boring. And we entrepreneurs don't like doing boring stuff. We like doing dopamine-rich kind of stuff, like fun stuff. And data is boring. Going back to the prefrontal cortex, figuring out the data that is important for your business and how to incorporate that data, kind of like a flywheel, I guess you would say, like you would just have like quality management plan. I'm not really such a big fan, but you have to do it. Do, check, act, and then you plan again. Or it's kind of like just understanding like there's certain constraints, bottlenecks, right? And knowing like, what is the one thing that I have to do to move my business along, right? So what is the biggest constraint? And usually you can't figure this out unless you have the data. So for me, like right now, the YouTube channel, I'm just starting it. So obviously like the constraint in creating a YouTube channel and having it do well is just the content creation engine itself, right? Like I've had multiple runs at like trying to stay consistent with content and I failed at it. And the reason I failed at it is because I wasn't consistent with creating content. The system that I have to create, right, for creating content is kind of like, it brings you back to James Clear, to like Atomic Habits, right? You have to create systems in that sense, like they make the environment, it's an environment thing. Like, so I've created an entire studio. I can come in to the studio, I can press a button, and I can start recording, right? So I have to make it super easy for me to create content so that like everything around it is it's in its own spot, it's in its own room. I come here, I do it, I turn on the camera, I got the camera set up, and I press the button and I go. Right? So because anything that's in the way of that, and there's so many things that get in the way of creating content, like in my life. It's not just going to be content, right? Like there's the one thing that you need to do. The reason that it's so hard to do it is because you need a big block of time to do really good things. So this is a great topic actually. In order to be good at anything, you need to have unfettered concentration and unfettered flow. And then to get into flow, you need time. And if you don't have time, you can't get into the flow. But what does that mean? Like, what does flow even mean? It's been studied. But flow is this. Flow is, it's unhindered creativity, right? It's you're being able to be resourceful, use your brain in a higher sense, right? Like you tap into something that you can't tap into. It's not shallow. You get to the core of something. You channel something, but you can only channel if you put the time in. And the time has to be allotted. You have to be able to have that time. We're talking about here, to get real tactical, is you gotta have like 90-minute bouts of time. If I just spent 90 minutes creating content without anybody blocking me, I get into a flow state. I might even get to the point where I'm doing this, like I'll just do 180 minutes. But everyone has their own capacity, and I think the capacity also gets bigger as you go. Like you can build out that muscle, right? This 90-minute block is super important. The more that you can stack them, the better, right? You've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm gonna be a normal human and just work 5 days a week. To get those big things done, to get like in this sense, like I wanna create this system for creating content, right? In order to do that, I have to get reps. Quality comes from quantity, right? It's a force function of quantity. It makes sense when you talk about it, but like people kind of wanna shy away from the fact that like you have to do something a lot to get good at it. You're not just like, so the quality, like I used to have a thing in my mind where it's like the quality is like it's like its own thing. It's one thing by itself. That quality itself only got there because of all the quantity before it. To get to that level of quality, you have to do quantity, which means you need time, which means you need 90-minute blocks. But like Mondays are tough for that for me. What I ended up doing is I just took this whole thing from Peter Thiel, maker versus manager. And the manager, what the manager wants to do is have meetings, right? Because the manager needs to manage. So what happens is like in normal business, you manage all day long, and you don't really pay attention to like your employees and that the fact that they need to have these 90-minute blocks if they're creative. Or you know, like managers are important, right? You need people to manage. And if you're doing both, then that's like me. Like I only have 2 employees, so we're 3 of us, but we all can't be interrupting each other all day long because we have to be deep in our work, in our process. And in order to get deep work done, we need these 90 minutes. It's a psychological fact that our brains need time to get into like the real depth of work, and that the quality of our work will get better if we can give ourselves at least the 90 minutes. And they even kind of studied that like after 90 minutes, it's good to even take like a 5-minute break because it will reset the clock and refresh your brain again. But then you can go right back to 90 minutes again. But you have to create a life for that. Your life has to be structured to be able to do that. And that's kind of the discipline in creating a system that allows you to have these 90-minute bouts. So if we go back to maker manager, the system would be something like this. Like I need to manage. I have to run my business. I have to manage things. I have to do things when people call me. I have to have a way to respond to people. I can't just be in the dark and do that. It would be nice. So I mix it. For me, it's actually Tuesdays. So Tuesdays, I just manage all day long. And I tell everybody on my team, and this is the Makerverse manager, and I just make sure that Tuesdays, I've got my customer meetings, I've got all sorts of stuff, and that's like my day. I just manage. Those are all my appointments. But on every other day of the week, I've got these 90-minute blocks, if I'm good. This is ideal. It actually doesn't always happen this way, but you got to start somewhere. So we can count how many that is. I've designed then my life to have 16 90-minute blocks per week, and this will allow me to create content. It turned out to be something different in my business, right? So in my business, the system turned out to be like this. We've got a marketing agency, yeah, and I've got a software branch. The software is kind of like one of these businesses. It goes like this. You have a dip here. You have to invest a lot of time to get the software built, and you have to have all these conversations with customers and blah, blah, blah. Software is like a whole world for itself. The marketing agency, it's a business like this. Cash flow business from day one. Which one's more scalable? Yeah, obviously software. Marketing agency, not scalable. Why not? Because it needs lots of people and they have to be really good. And you have to have a market around you, like locally, to support like growing that. So what happens is in my business every single day, I have let's say we got right now we've got 15 customers, and every single day they call me, they email me, they're trying to ruin this perfect calendar I've got. And so what I did is I built a system. Basically, it's just a ticketing system, but it's like real easy. Like it's for me, it's like this for my customers. And so if like a customer wants something, they say what they want. They want something with their website, they want something with their social media, they want something whatever. And it creates a ticket, and the ticket can be worked on. So what I do is I create like a contract with my customers that says for 3,000 euros a month, you get to have anything that you want within 7 days. If they want something in 3 days, then, the cool thing is with the ticket system, I can track this, right? Then it's gonna cost them another 300 euros. And if they want something in 1 day, it costs them 500 euros. And so what this does, it allows me to train my customers to allow me to use this system. If I get all of these tickets coming into my system, and I've got like a whole bunch of tickets, boom, 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 and I can plan them into the week, into these 90-minute blocks, then I can work also more efficiently, or my employees can work more efficiently, so that we can use these 90-minute blocks to our advantage. But without this ticket system, I'm never gonna get there. Because what's gonna happen is people are just gonna want something, and then I'm working on this person's job, and then the next customer calls me and I work on that person's job, and I'm just switching context the whole time. And what happens is it basically ruins my brain, first off, because I'm switching back all the time between this and that, and I never really get like the deep work done that I need to get to even offer any of those customers really good quality. Right? So I'm actually improving by training my customers to work 7 days out ahead of time. It allows me to plan the week, and it gives them better service. So again, it's the communication with the customer that needs to happen so that people understand, give me, I want something right away, actually ruins the quality of what they're getting. So this is it's very psychological, but it's true. That's a system that I've created that allows me to get to the goal of this deep work. So like our content creation system works kind of similar, right? So if anybody know of the Kanban, it's kind of like you got these cards. You got like basically just like a Kanban. And what happens is like I'm recording this video, for example, right? And as soon as I'm done with recording the video, and then I have like a Kanban thing, and I've got a file in there, right, that I recorded, and I need to like put it on my server, so it's like on the server somewhere. So it has to have like a location, and I put all this stuff in this card, right? And so this is like all like a system. And when I create this card in my project management, it's got all of this stuff built in there. Let's just create like a new one here. And I use a template. So I've got like a template built in there for awesome content. So the video is recorded, right? And then it goes from status recorded. And then I put it on the raw location. I have like a SD card or whatever from the phones or for whatever we're recording here. And then I move it to this copy job, because sometimes these files are big. So there's like a big copy job. If it's successful, then I put it in the correct place. It's the location. So I put it in the file system. And then I give it a good name. And then I take the transcript of the video and I use that to help me create content. I make one long form video, And I keep all of the files in DaVinci, which is like a video editor, so that we can collaborate, so that if one person's not there, the other person can pick up where they left off. And then you have like this whole checklist for posting content, right? You know, you can go into the whole thing with like, what is a good YouTube video, right? Like it goes real deep. What I'm trying to say is that I've got a system for it, right? Closed out saving. And people can take this Kanban here and I can just drag and drop. So like we got the to-do of the video, then we got the things that are in progress, and we have Descript, which helps us with the undertitles. And then when it's time for me to review what my employees did, then it's blocked and they can assign it back to me. And then I can say it's ready, it's completed, canceled, and it also goes into an archive, right? So what I'm doing is I'm creating a system so that I can just sit here and create, and then my employees or even I can like jump in the editing process at any point, and we can all see like what the status is of a certain video. Because in the end, what you really want to get to is you want to get to quantity again, right? But how do you get to quantity? You can only get to quantity by doing it and doing it and doing it over and over and over again, and then putting some throughput through that system that's going to get us eventually to the quality. So the system allows us to do that. So now we're getting back to the very last. We made it. We made it to the end, guys. Congratulations. Thank you for hanging around so long. If you made it this far, you're amazing. And I hopefully was able to keep you engaged in this video. Number 9, start a movement. Oh yeah, start a movement. All right, I'm gonna get into this real quick because I think starting a movement is something that like, it motivates me just to talk about it. Starting a movement is, for me, like, let's think about something here. Anybody know the movie Fight Club? I do. I love it. I haven't watched it forever. Another day I watched it again, and it totally got me hooked. That was a movement. Fight Club was a movement. Fight Club is more than just a community. It's like a way of life, right? It has a whole ethos behind it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it doesn't matter, because if anything that's ever motivated you to do something over a longer period of time, it's because you had like an intrinsic thing. There was something about it that like picked you up emotionally, but like on multiple levels, not just like also got your prefrontal cortex. It got you planning. It got you motivated. It keeps you motivated. When the times are tough, you still stick around. And for that, you have to like to create a movement. In order to create a movement, you have to have things like values. The first rule of Fight Club, right? That's first rule. You gotta have rules, right? First rule of Fight Club: there is no Fight Club. What's the second rule of Fight Club? There is no Fight Club. And if it's your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight. Right? There's like 10 rules, whatever. Creating a movement like that around your product, around your service, it's what every amazing product or service has, right? It's just like if you think about Apple, or if you think about even Intel. I was reading the book High Output Management, fantastic book. Like if you want to have really strong people behind you, they have to be able to fit their dreams into your dream. Right? So the dream, like the reason that Elon Musk attracts the high quality engineers is because they're working on a goal that seems unachievable. Like their dreams can fit into the dreams of Elon Musk's dream of going to Mars. And so having a higher ethos, a higher vision that can pull people along. The hard thing about life every day, getting up in the morning when you don't want to and doing it anyway, like you can't do that for something that you don't believe in. Being able to find that in yourself as a leader, and then also being able to communicate that clearly to the people around you. Also, that's what this whole thing is really about, right? It's about, in the end, you find your own reason, and it's big enough for other people to want to get involved. I can tell you what that is for me, but I don't need to talk about myself. It's just find it for yourself, because make everything else easy, you know? And there's a million ways to do it. That's a cool thing. And if you just do it your way, it's the right way. There's 8 billion people on this planet, and everyone is following something. And they're following themselves, and people are following them. But the key here is to have a big dream. And really, honestly, like I'm saying it right now to you guys all out there, because this is for my thing, it's 0 fucks given, okay? When you die, no one will care. 2 weeks max. And the rest, like, of course, not nobody's gonna care, but like the people that showed up to your funeral, they're probably on their phones, like on the way home, looking at social media. Like that's just the fact. So why should you give a fuck what other people think? So that's the thing that I think is super powerful, is just to understand that you have to like not give a fuck. Because honestly, like not give a fuck what other people think. But when I say zero fucks given, what I'm really saying is then find the one fuck that you do give a fuck about and just do that. Because if you give like 120 fucks, then there aren't any fucks left for like the real fuck that you need. Find that one thing, and when you're finding it, find it for yourself and find it for you, because only you can find that. Nobody else can tell you what that is. So that's what I'm gonna leave you with today. Don't give a fuck. Find a movement, create a movement, and live a fulfilling life on your terms. Easier said than done. All right, with that, peace out.